I see you're looking at your famous painting, Nigel.
Yes, yes. My mock Baroque painting.
Yes, you might have to explain that to us, but I'm aware that it portrays the Frith dynasty and the four members of the Frith family who have had such an influence on the landscape of the Stonescape, even of the city. But perhaps you could elaborate a bit on that, because some of it's quite arcane.
Yes. Well, there are four, but as I was saying earlier, I have discovered that the most ancient has another father who was also a sculptor and did a lot of the work. They're still in Gloucester. But this is about the Friths in Oxford, and this picture is called The Friths over Oxford. And
Right.
I painted it for a lecture I gave, which, Bob, you came to, I remember.
Oh yes, of course.
And it's about what the Friths have done in restoring the sculpture on some of the chief buildings of Oxford. And the person who was the chief leader of that is my grandfather there, who was E.S. Frith.
Yeah.
But the firm as a whole was founded in about 1890-ish by my great-grandfather, W.S. Frith, and this is his little prospectus for what the firm could offer. W.S. Frith and Son and Partners. He had about 11 people working for him at one time. Elgin Studios, Trafalgar Square, Chelsea, SW3. There was a Trafalgar Square in Chelsea in those days. It's now called Chelsea Square.
Yeah.
And the telephone number, you can see there weren't many telephones in Chelsea. His telephone number was Kensington 750.
Very good.
But he founded it, and in the back it does say that this was published in, I think, 1922. He does the principal contracts, or most of which is in London, but you can see that Oxford does feature in there. Oxford, and he says St John's College, Magdalen College, etc.
Yeah.
So this will mean, and it was about 1930, that Grandpa and my father, who's behind him there, he's not looking very sculptural because he's got an army officer's swagger stick and a Royal Artillery tie on because he was 20 years in the army. But he was, when he was about 20, he was working on this, which is St John's College.
Right.
And in fact, I think it's one of these girls' heads. There's 8 nymphs along here, and then 8 nymphs along the other side, and these ones represent the 7+1 virtues. And behind one of the heads, it's got a little message from him saying, "This was carved by Derek Frith, and it was bloody cold." So he was up there in the wointer.
Do you have any idea how your great-grandfather, who did get his commissions in Oxford, bearing in mind at that time he was based in London, did he go hunting for work, or did Oxford come looking for him? Do you know how that worked?
I'm not sure, but I think Oxford might have come looking for him. But the thing was, there wasn't really a lot of sculpture done in Oxford before 1930 because they hadn't evolved a proper way of restoring the colleges. The colleges were all getting very, very dirty and black, and the sculpture was wearing away. And in Victorian times, they would, if a bit fell off, they'd stick it back and put some concrete on, and it looked awful. And the concrete damaged the stone. And Grandpa worked out a way for the firm of restoring the sculpture where you, if the stone isn't too bad, you model on it, you stick little bits of copper wire in, and I've done this myself, and then you model in a sort of cement mixed with the stone dust of the actual stone, so it's exactly the same colour. But if it's really damaged, you have to start all over again. just recarved the whole thing. And he elaborated this technique and wrote a long letter to the Times about it that Howard Colvin publishes is in his book on this, an architectural historian. So that's really what happened.
Can I just interrupt you there? It's interesting, you say that there wasn't a lot of sculpture before the, what was it, 1930s?
Oh, plenty of sculpture, but no restoration.
Right, restoration, because if you read Jude the Obscure,
Yeah, which I haven't.
when Jude, the sculptor,
Yes,
arrives in Oxford, he wonders, as he wanders around the city, at the appalling condition of the sculptors.
Yeah, really, yeah.
And he
is a sculptor himself, or a stonemason.
he comes there to get work, you know, basically, and he remarks that, you know, in a place of so much learning and so much talent, that the quality of the stonework could have become so derelict. So
you see, now that was about 1890-ish, maybe, is he?
Yeah.
So it just bears out. So I think Grandpa led the way, and then he was going from 1930 till about 1970 at it. But here's an example for that talk I gave. I had a before and after. I think this is the Muse of Astronomy, who's not on that range. Yes, sorry, she is on that range. You see, this is what it looked like before. The wet gets in, you see, and the stone flakes off, and it totally disfigures it. And you can't really work on that. It's because the whole face is gone. Here's one eye that remains, you see. But that eye that remains is enough to show you what was there originally. Because how do you know what was there originally, you see? There's a few engravings of the college which you can sort of peer at this little blob to try and make out. But really, as Grandpa says, you've got to enter into the spirit of the, in this case, 17th century when it was created, and redo it. And this is his recreation of it. And so, in fact, all these heads had to be totally redone.
Yes, it's impressive. Yeah. And his method, this methodology that he developed, was presumably quickly caught on among other.
I think so. Yes.
Other people working in the field.
And his assistant, I mean, a bit like Jude Obscure, Michael Black, who's quite a famous figure in Oxford because he did the Emperor's Heads. He told me the story of what got him into sculpture, because he was at St Cat's and had the same tutor as I did, Chesney Hall. And he said he was walking past this scaffolding once, and there was this old chap up there chipping away at some stone, and he was still there the next day and the next day, and he got talking to him. And this was Grandpa, and eventually Grandpa said, "Well, if you're that interested, come and join the firm, and you can train as an apprentice with me, and be a sculptor." And in fact, he did. He never finished his degree, and then he kind of became a bigger figure in Oxford than Grandpa.
Well, he was rather flamboyant, I seem to remember, and it is possible he might not have finished his degree anyway.
I think perhaps that's so. Yeah.
I don't think I'm doing him any serious injustice there.
I met somebody who was around in Oxford at that time, and he said, you know, there weren't many girls in Oxford anyway, and he said, you didn't stand a chance. He said there were 2 men in Oxford at that time, and they had all the women that they could want. And I was, who were they? Well, one was Michael Black. He was incredibly handsome, just like a great Greek god. The other one was Bill Clinton.
Amazing. Yeah.
So, now, I don't know if have we got time just to talk a little bit about the how you actually do these 2 processes of modelling onto it to restore it and totally recarving it.
Yes, as much time as you like. I see you've got a lot of tools there.
Yes.
These date from the period.
These are Grandpa's tools, and who knows, they might be great-grandpa's.
Yeah.
but you can see you get a nice bit of pudding here, as it's called, the sort of stuff you're modelling with, and these are modelling tools. This, if you want to scrape a chunk off. And as I said, you put bits of copper wire in to secure it to the stone and then model onto it. But if you have to totally recarve it, you see, you've got hammer and chisel sort of thing, and a rasp.
Yes.
And then when you're doing a big job, like one of these big cartouches, this one on the Sheldonian is 5 foot high.
Yeah.
That had to be totally recarved. I've got a picture of it here. I don't know if you can see that, but you see that's how the not that cartouche, but the one that's facing Blackwell's on the Broad. It was totally black, and so much 40 to bits that it's got these iron bars holding it together. Now that has just got to be totally recarved. But what he did was have that huge 5 foot high block of stone shipped back to Burford in his studio. And here's the second process where you feel your way, you see all these lumps and you think, what is that little tendril there? And then you model in clay onto it so that you build it up to be a working model of what you're now going to carve.
Right.
You then do all the measurements, you see. It's a full-scale model, so you know you've got to have that measurement, and on your new block of stone you then transfer the measurement and get chipping. And you end up with that, you see. That is the Stuart Royal coat of arms from Charles II's time.
Well, that's magnificent. I mean, clearly, you must have been tempted to enter this world yourself. I mean, given the fact that, you know, your great-grandfather, your grandfather, your father's career was rather interrupted by the war, but you'd grown up, as it were, covered in a stone dust.
To start with, yes.
But you didn't follow through, really.
No, I didn't follow through. I mean, when I was at school, I was thinking, am I going to go to art school? But then I was mad keen on the theatre and was played in all the Shakespeare plays at school. And so I thought, should I try and go to RADA? And then I thought, well, it'd be nice to go to St John's College, you see, because of Grandpa's connections. And they didn't particularly want me because they said my A-level subjects were too peculiar. Well, they were art, English and maths, and I failed maths the first time.
So might I be uncharitable enough to say that you were too much of a scholar to be an artisan? Not to say limp-wristed. Yes.
But I did do a bit, you see. My claim to fame is that, you see, Grandpa did the big cartouche. The head underneath, that was done by my dad, who, as I was telling you, did a bit of that. And I also carved, and that's modelling, but then I also carved, hammer and chisel wise, a little bit of this lion skin round there. If you just go round the corner before you go out in the college garden, you can see where I knocked a bit of the corner off. And I went, oh dear, and he went, oh, forget it.
So you are really a genuine member of the team.
I did do my stint at the coalface, up in the rain, modelling away. It was.
So that depiction of the four of you is fully justified.
It is, but I have got a paper in my hand to show that I really did.
Part-time.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we'll close.
Thank you very much for coming along and indulging me.
No, fascinating. Thank you.